Hello, lovely podcast people. One of my previous podcasts started like that. I heard myself saying it. It sounds quite nice. So expect that more often. And I also, the last couple of mornings, have woken up and just read my podcast reviews, new ones that have come in. And it's a bit like, what's the word? Is it Russian roulette? Yeah. Like, you know how many times you go through, there's a chance you're going to shoot yourself in the head. With the podcast reviews, I'm going through all these amazing, lovely statements. So thank you so much for those of you who have left them. But there's always that chance you come to one that's just horrible. And I don't take the horrible ones too seriously, but it just, it knocks you off this sort of cloud nine feeling a little bit, maybe. Or it just bolsters it because they're so funny sometimes. Anyway, so hello, lovely podcast people. Today's episode is a bit of an interesting one. I don't know when I will release it. What day is it today? Saturday. And I just woken up, had a bit of a lazy morning in bed on my phone, replying to people's messages, DMs around social media and replying to as many comments as possible, as I usually do, and just over and over again. So in the last wee while, I've spoken about, I guess, intentional weight loss. I've obviously spoken about this quite a few times over the last few years, having introduced the topic of weight stigma and the health at every size, not healthy at every size, health at every size concept, and weight stigma and intuitive eating and stuff like this, which all exist within a very similar realm. Body positivity, I suppose you can add in there. Anti-diet people. All of that to MNU students and our mentoring lab members, and had some brilliant speakers come in and talk about weight stigma and what else? Intuitive eating, those things I just said. There was one other thing though. Anyway, soon we've got the fantastic Nadia Craddock speaking about, I can't remember the exact title of her lecture. Sorry, Nadia. But again, she's obviously going to be fantastic. I saw her first speak. Sarah and I saw her speak at a Rooted project kind of get together, which was really good. And I suppose one of the reasons I mentioned some of that is because I have very esteemed colleagues, friends, people I truly see as friends, who are active in this space and who are knowledgeable in this space and who are pushing forward some of the great work around weight stigma. And I want to act as this kind of vessel, as always, between extremes. And you know what? I said to my staff in the office this morning, a couple of staff working, one of the things, and I use the word hate, it's probably a bit strong, but I hate this human tendency of people to go from one extreme to the other. And it's like, why? And I suppose, I guess I'm setting myself apart from this. I don't see myself being this way. And maybe it's a certain subset of individuals, or I don't know. But it's just flipping annoying that you get someone going from, let's take it back to government guidelines and even dietetics and diabetes management and just this stupid, maybe it's a nutrition thing, but I'm sure it exists in other realms, but it's so moronic. 1 minute we're telling diabetics they must eat low fat, and really that's a really powerful message that has been put across for a long time in diabetes management. And all the zealots out there, well, not, some zealots, some kind of people with religious fervor around low carb and keto stuff. But, people, we understand. I mean, the problem is because dietetics, if you go and look, I can't remember. It's probably still there. I haven't read the latest edition of the Dietetics Handbook manual thingy-majigger that is like their Bible in dietetics. And again, don't get uppity when I say dietitians. A really great dietitian, Aidan, commented on one of my posts recently. He was like, I get my back up when you say stuff about dietitians, but I then take a breath and go, he's right. And he's not talking about every dietitian, and I'm, not seeing that stamp as I'm a dietitian, therefore everything that's said about dietitians and dietetics is aimed at me. And that's the thing. I don't have respect for dietitians. I don't, because I don't have respect based on a title. I have respect for individuals who deserve respect professionally. Obviously, I give them basic human respect, but I don't go, you're a dietitian, therefore you're a genius and you're the best, you're the hashtag gold standard for nutrition advice. These are these stupid things that the British Dietetic Association, hashtag trust a dietitian. Most of the good dietitians I know cringe with this hashtag trust a dietitian rubbish. So anyway, but that's not the individuals, and that's not to say that people shouldn't become dietitians, because it's an absolutely fantastic career if you are the type of individual who I would respect in any realm professionally, because you work hard. You don't think that you've achieved everything by the time you've done a 3-year degree. And you continue to learn, and you question stuff, and you have a critical mindset, and you don't, unfortunately, you need to realize that, but my lecturer said, doesn't make something true. And actually, if someone challenges you, if you can't back it up, you need to adapt your opinion, your views, your knowledge, your practice. Anyway, dietetics practice has now swung massively towards low carb, even keto. It's bonkers, not in all realms, but it is actually bonkers that the discussion has gone so far towards that, rather than, again, as I talked about, maybe in a very recent podcast, the unintended consequences of nutrition recommendations, if you want to go listen to that. I talk a bit about blood glucose regulation. Anyway, so what I'm talking about here is intentional weight loss, the anti-diet movement, whether or not we should be recommending people to lose weight. And this, unfortunately, isn't a well-planned podcast. I have literally just walked in here. I have no other thoughts in my head than just to talk. But because I ponder nutrition so much, I know when I talk, stuff will come out, but it won't necessarily be in a super ordered fashion. That's not what this podcast is about. But people are stupid. They go to extremes. They go from basically thinking weight loss is the be-all and end-all of health. Now, that's really unfortunate. And, it makes me realize how revolutionary MNU is. And how I would love to get MNU. Lots and lots of people said, this would be fantastic if you teach this in schools. Like, no, let's not go down that route yet with that discussion. But, I've done GP training of doctors, spoken at medical conferences. Yeah, the best possible thing in the world for every doctor to do is MNU. And you could strip loads of it out because the physiology and the biochemistry and that kind of stuff that they already know. We have loads of GPs and doctors, emergency doctors, paramedics, all sorts. People with decent knowledge in these areas do MNU. So you could strip it back. But for the fact that MNU, really, if you work hard and you concentrate for 4 to 6 hours a week, like not 4 to 6 hours of work, but 4 to 6 hours of good work, you can do MNU in a year and you can really get the most out of it. Obviously, there are people who spend much, much more time than that. The high flyers, the advanced people, the people who are, end up becoming world beaters in the industry. you can become flipping good in 4 to 6 hours a week, which says something. And we teach them about the facets of health. And it's mental to me that there are doctors saying, not necessarily their own fault, but almost believing that health can be defined by BMI. It's mental. Because people on MNU who haven't done their academic training and maybe haven't got their IQ even, having done MNU, don't think that and know there are many more facets to health and the drawbacks of BMI. Now, one of the things I'm going to say at this point is don't be a dummy. And you probably needs time pointing, whoever's listening to this in my staff, and time pointing. The dummies who say that BMI doesn't correlate to health. That's really dumb thing to say. We know that there is a correlation between body weight and health. We know it's an imperfect correlation. We also know that only basing it on that is silly. Looking at the person in front of you, seeing what they're reporting, seeing their other lifestyle factors, seeing, healthcare should ever be a computer says no type situation. And we know there are doctors who do that. We know insurance policies, what's your BMI? This. Oh, okay, well, you're overweight, therefore your health insurance is going to be this. That's crazy. I go to the gym, I'm an athlete, I'm a whatever. No, computer says no. Unfortunately, that's what happens, seemingly, definitely with doctors. So I did a post a few days ago, which again, obviously has sparked some of this discussion, where I talked about this idea that people are going, no one should intentionally try to lose weight. And when we say weight, we're really talking about body fat. So we'll use those somewhat synonymously in this podcast. And it's a crazy thing to say. And this is what I'm talking about, extremes. So I mentioned those other parallels that can be drawn. But people going from everyone should lose weight, health is a factor of your weight, blah, 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 to no one should lose weight. It's so dumb. Why does anyone think going from this idiot you admit to being before to this other extreme of idiocy? The answer is almost always somewhere in the middle, maybe skewed off to the left or right. And it also needs to be individualized. Now, when we're making population recommendations, this is where the weight stigma stuff is cool. Because just going, you're fat, you're going to die, probably isn't helping anyone. Hashtag the government, sort your lives out. I mean, the government is getting health, nutrition, fitness advice from Joe Wicks. Legitimately, he's allowed to sit at the table with Boris and make decisions, or not make decisions, but be part of the table of the decision makers. Yeah, that's the world we live in. And people, why are you being mean to Joe Wicks? It's not even him, is it? I mean, he knows he's not intelligent. He knows he's not particularly qualified in health, nutrition, etc. Yet he's accepting that role. That's bad. Oh, it's an honour. No, honourable would be saying, no, I don't have a clue what I'm talking about. Don't ask me. Secondly, it shows us, Martin, why are they allowed to say this? Why are the government guidelines this? Because they're dumb, because they're human, because nutrition is a flipping mess, because there's so much outside of science that's allowed to affect nutrition and nutrition policy, and humans involved in anything screws stuff up, doesn't it? Again, I am human, yes, I am not flawless. But in an area I feel like I have huge insight in with regards to personalized nutrition. And I have dedicated my whole career to learning about, pondering about, thinking about, and questioning. maybe that's what I'll call myself, the nutrition philosopher. Oh, that's a cool name, isn't it? Martin MacDonald, the nutrition philosopher. Because I do just I've spent thousands and thousands and thousands of hours contemplating nutrition and nutrition nuances. Whereas someone gets a 3-year degree where they spend 10 hours a week, most of it drunk, going, I'm an expert, when they graduate with a little certificate. And we all know, people, when you graduate from a degree, you're not an expert in anything. So anyway, where was I? Joe Wick's sitting at the table. People being extreme with the recommendations, swinging from one way to the other. BMI. So the point of this podcast, I just wanted to talk because it was on my mind. That's the point of this podcast, to just get stuff out of my head that I think could be useful to people who are interested in nutrition philosophy. But nutrition science, the science of nutrition philosophy, so many good things coming out of this. So people swinging towards the extremes. Oh yeah, maybe that's what I said about individualized nutrition stuff. So yeah, the government being ridiculous with, you're fat, you're going to die, you probably should lose some weight, is not helping anyone. But what also isn't helping anyone, anti-diet people, diet culture antagonists. And you know what? I love what the movement is doing. I love the bringing to the forefront of weight stigma and the impact that this could be having. Again, stop talking about allostatic load and weight stigma and the definite impact that this is having on health, as though it's so scientific and so definitive, and it's still something that's in early stages of research. Don't mock yourself and the area by doing so. It's annoying because I'm trying to get behind some of these movements and you people just make it look dumb. Don't do it. Don't do it for likes. Don't do it for shock tactics. Just don't do it. Oh my goodness, right. I'm going to have to say this. Assessing someone's health based on their BMI is as accurate as assessing someone's mental health based on a mood ring. That is one of the most popular anti-diet culture, intuitive eating, body positivity, whatever, Instagram quote tweets, whatever's out there. Oh yeah, and everyone just, it's just a massive circle jerk. I absolutely love that term. A massive circle jerk. I mean, that actually, circle jerk, is that a sexist term against men? I know how PC I am. I would not like to be doing that. But then again, what's the non-gender specific thing of a circle jerk? Or do I need to say a circle jerk and then add a woman, female version in? Come back to me. I'll need it, if you can just comment on the post of this podcast on Instagram with the female version. I'm just laughing because I know some of my followers are very creative, crude, Australian. Anyway. Where was I? A massive circle jerk around this thing, a mood ring basing someone's mental health. It's so stupid. And again, you're just doing it for likes, or you are just stupid. I'm sorry to insult your intelligence, because you're just mocking yourself. BMI is incredibly imperfect. But the data's there and the data's clear on a mass population level, in the grand scheme of things. It's very, very, very hard to be 400 pounds and healthy. It's very, very, very hard to be a BMI, and whatever BMI the 400 pounds relates to. It's very, very, very hard to be a BMI of 14 and be healthy. I would almost go towards saying impossible. BMI does correlate to health. It's just not something we need to use particularly on an individual level, but it does correlate. And you could look at a set of numbers and not look at individuals and guess. But yeah, if you have an 18 and a 27 or a 23 and a 26, you can't say who's going to be more or less healthy. No. But no one's doing that other than maybe stupid doctors. Let's go there, shall we? Or dietitians in weight loss clinics, who knows? But no one with half a brain is doing that. So stop fighting against that and mocking the movement that we need to be aware of, weight stigma. It's not good. There are people dying from cancer because doctors are acting and are just very, very fat phobic and stigmatizing weight. You need to lose weight. That pain is due to weight. No, it's different. I know I'm overweight, whatever, but can we not focus on that? This is a new pain that I'm feeling. Oh, look, I've got a tumor in my spine. I've died. It's your fault because you didn't treat me like a patient with a normal BMI. Yes, that is a real life scenario. It's disgusting, right? We need to be aware of it. It needs to be taught. Now, this is the point of this podcast. If you people who have realized that weight loss is not the be all and end all of health, I mean, it's laughable that you're only finding that out now, or you people who have had eating disorders because of diet culture. The thing we need to do is educate people, because all you're going to do is just turn people against your movement. The nutritionists, personal trainers, dietitians, doctors who are still acting under what they've been taught, and the MNU graduates who are better than all of you, no offense. Most of them. I mean, some of our graduates. I'm not saying all MNU graduates are perfect. We've had an MNU graduate reported to us recently, and we are investigating them. But this is why MNU and I am better than everyone else. No offense again. And it's not conceited, because I am as good as I say I am. But we actually look into this stuff, unlike the AFN, who get people reported to them and never follow up on actually actioning stuff and removing their title, etc. We do. And what does that then do? Creates enemies. Man, I've got enemies. So many enemies. Bitter, sad, twisted individuals. Because I did the right thing. Winston Churchill. Good, you've got enemies. It means you stood up for something that matters. Something like that. May not be verbatim quote. Anyway. God, this is a ranty podcast. I hope you're enjoying it. And do you know what? I'm going to say at this point, passion can be mistaken for aggressiveness. And me using the words idiot and moronic and also you're already being triggered by me calling you out on your BS. And hopefully some of you have the substance, you're virtuous enough humans to actually take this on board and change. You don't have to thank me for changing the direction of your careers and your thoughts. Oh, goodness. There was a quote. What was it? I don't think myself more intelligent than you. I just see things differently to you. Actually, yeah, I've just remembered where this is. My job is just to show you things and let you go on your own path or something. I'll get that quote done properly in the show notes. Anyway, so this is not aggressiveness. I'm not angry, I'm disappointed. That parental phrase. This is passion coming through that you're hearing, right? It's something because I'm tired of people screwing up nutrition stuff. And, social media personalities screwing stuff up and skewing stuff and people doing stuff for likes. And people I just thought better of, and all of these dietitians who some of them are my acquaintances, professional, friendly enough acquaintances, people have come to me for advice or I've worked with or whatever. That it's just disappointing to see it, isn't it, right? And you will feel called out if someone sends this to you based on one of your posts. I don't dislike you at all. And I'd 100% be open to open conversations. And I want to push lots of your messages forward. 2, let's flip on his head, right? And show that I am on your team. All of these silly doctors, dietitians, nutritionists, personal trainers, etc., who are pushing weight loss way too much. The whole of the fitness industry, influencers, Instagimps, who are giving people eating disorders because they're demonizing foods with their clean eating platforms and their anti this food, etc. I want to awaken them, wake them up, make them woke to even this concept, which I spoke about so much on my tour, but there may be some people who just will never be a healthy BMI, ever, no matter what. But they can still seek health and probably be healthy and be healthier than normal BMI counterparts. Likewise, to get them to understand that just by this is one thing for all of my good PT, nutrition, dietitian, doctor, etc. followers, health professional followers, I want you to hear this. You getting someone to do your way of weight loss, you getting someone away from fads and yo-yo dieting and just get into a small calorie deficit and just do this exercise and don't do shakes and pills and potions and just do it the right way, inverted commas, does not necessarily equate to long-term sustainable weight loss. Lots of you have not had a long enough career or do not follow up enough with your ex-clients to know your weight regain failure rate. Again, you guys hopefully know that I don't think weight regain is a failure. But you need to start to realize that the physiological mechanisms that govern body weight are powerful. And this is why, as a population, prevention is what really needs a lot of attention, because cure is flawed in many ways. And one of those is just our physiology. We are not physiologically programmed to protect against weight gain as much as we are programmed to protect against weight loss. Hashtag evolutionary theory. Some people do this well, physiologically. Their genetics are that way. People, you can go Google thrifty gene, etc. And but my point being is, if someone is genetically prone to weight gain, as well as having had a past, a history, psychologically, psychosocially, economically, all of these things have this impact. Once they are in a position where there's dysregulation of body fat, for instance, the game changes. It's and if you'll ever see on my social media pictures of me doing this, like crab hands, basically in my tour, I let's give credit where it's due, very, very eloquently, pictorially, graphically demonstrated metabolic adaptation and the changes in metabolism and body weight between your former self, your current self, your post weight loss self, etc. And the point being is, maybe I'll do a separate video on this somewhere. If I do ever, I'll go back and link this in the show notes. But having lost weight, to maintain weight loss will be harder. If you weigh 70 kilos now, you go to 120 kilos, you come back to 70 kilos, your life and how you maintain that 70 kilos will be incredibly different to how it was to maintain it in the first place. That's the short summary of this. I mean, I've used a huge range there. I could have used something very different, 80 to 100 and back down to 80. It's still, the landscape's hugely different. It's an area where I would love in the future to fund research to look at, because this isn't being done. Lots of people discussing reverse dieting. It's an imperfect, it's not well defined, it's been subject to some really stupid statements made early doors about this. But it's certainly an interesting, reverse dieting, intermittent dieting, as in periods of calorie restriction, periods of calorie maintenance or surplus. I talk about this multiphasic approach, etc., etc., etc. Matador study, being a first insight into this. Diet for a week, don't diet for a week, then diet for another week, then don't diet, then diet for a week. And, lots of things that need to be improved on that study, but things are being done. Hugely interesting new area where we might end up in a post-dieted state, in a better post-dieted state. What I want to bring to those of you who are willing to listen, who do help people lose weight, is you need to get educated on the mental impacts of weight loss, the preoccupation with food that people sometimes get, you keep binging, well, don't worry, jump back on the bandwagon and let's try a bit harder next week. That's not the mentality the fitness industry should have anymore. And actually that could be on a quote that I put out, because I would like that to get out there in a big, big way. Unfortunately, it comes down, people start talking about it's like personal responsibility, it's willpower, you just need to be a better person. And this screws people. It really screws people. This is why my tour was so good. I went into some of this in real great depth. It's all coming back to me now. It's obviously been over a year and a bit since I delivered my last tour talk because of COVID. But it was cool. So, is there anything I'm going to need to... And I'm going to talk more about this. I've been asked to speak on a couple of big podcasts about health at every size, weight stigma, anti-diet, intuitive eating, and where I sit on the topic from an evidence-based perspective. Because you do have the weight loss practitioners fighting against it, which you shouldn't be doing. Please stop fighting against it. Realize that humans are imperfect and every movement will have idiots. And to be honest, I've said this before, and I don't know if I'm right on this, but people like Tim Noakes and Gary Taubes, etc., having been in this industry a long time, 18 plus years, and paying attention, there's people who've been in the industry that amount of time, but have spunked a lot of the time away. Every single day that I've been in the industry, almost, less so recently because I've unfortunately become a business owner and less of a geek, but I've paid attention. Like 18 hours a day of paying attention, either reading research, reading tweets by experts, being in discussions, arguments online with the likes of Tim Noakes, being at conferences with Gary Taubes, having lunchtime discussions with him, being in pubs, and all I talk about is nutrition. you realize that actually maybe if there wasn't someone like Tim Noakes, maybe the discussions around hydration and the hydration guidelines and this, that, that never would have happened. He was a zealot. He made extreme statements, but it made stuff come to light. And I was on the other side of the fence with the world-leading hydration experts in my very close professional circles, and I saw them floundering based on his crazy statements, and it brought them back towards, you know what, we screwed up on a few of our things. They never admitted fault, which is sad to say because I've got a lot of respect for those people. But he made them change stuff. He got demonized for it, but because he was wrong. But no one went, you know what, he's made us reconsider some of this. Same with me, actually. And I'm going to give myself some praise. Soz if it makes you uncomfortable me doing so. But I absolutely hammered. And like to this day, I'm still doing it. Dietetic associations. You know, there was threads about me on there. You know, I was a kid. I was a kid in my early career. And these were adults. 30, you know, I say, you know, 30, 40, 50 years old. Trying to ruin my career. Professionally attacking me, covertly professionally attacking me, damaging my mental health, to be honest. I've spoken about this before. And what was I doing? I was literally just questioning their morals, their ethics, their practice. And you know what? I've still got their guidelines before I did that. And then when they stopped doing the naughty stuff, which is taking money from companies for promoting slightly dodgy guidelines, when they stopped taking that money, look what happened. Boom, new guideline, everything changed to what I was saying. Yeah, we won't go down that route again. All sorts of stuff. You've got people like Gary Taubes, who questioned some of the stuff around salt, which was, you know, led to some interesting discussions. Gary Taubes et al., others, the low-carb zealots, who are completely wrong in most things they say, but they're getting people to question the status quo, which has led to the fact that we now understand a bit more on a gen pop level. Mainstream media, unfortunately, people like Dr. Asim Malhotra are out there blurring the lines, muddying the water, doing it for his fame and profit and whatever else he's doing it for. I haven't got a good gauge on him because I've never met him as a person. But I know, I can see that in some situations he can talk sense. I don't know if he does that because he's clever and playing the game and knows that he needs to tread a line with certain people. But then you see him elsewhere being a complete and utter zealot and saying stuff that isn't true and profiting from it. But they are bringing to the forefront this idea that this old school dietetics thing, which because dietetics won't admit it was wrong and won't admit that it was like you can cut all fat and fatty foods to whatever the greatest extent possible, but never demonize any carbohydrates or sugar or anything like that. You know, go read it. I'm trying to remember what presentation this is in. It's in one of, I remember new presentations there. Anyway, it's all referenced. It's all out there. And I couldn't, I mean, and then they're chickens, aren't they? But I couldn't say this stuff if it wasn't true because I would get done for defamation or slander. But it's all true. It's all referenceable. Appendix A in court. Yep, thanks. I'm right. But we now have this instance where we are understanding that people can choose a variety of different methods to lose weight. We no longer are dietitians who need to demonize foods and be restrictive and put stuff off limits. We can be very, very balanced in our approach to lead to a healthier person mentally with a better relationship with food at the end of a period of dieting. The problem is again, 95% of diets fail. Ridiculous. You base this on one stat here and then any other stat, oh no, that's flawed. Oh, but yours isn't it? And then you reference studies from, I think I've seen some of the anti-diet people referencing Is it a Kevin Hall study? No, Johansson study maybe. Essentially, 40-ish% of the dieters who lost insane amounts of weight on crash diets, stupid diets, had retained their weight loss. But they don't reference that bit. They reference the bit of there was some metabolic adaptation. This is bad. C, don't diet because it'll slow your metabolism. But then they also ignore the part of the study where it says those with the greatest suppression of metabolism also maintain the greatest level of weight loss. That's the problem. It's when social justice meets nutrition science. Lots of these people aren't great on the science side. They're not great at reading studies. They're not great at being critical thinkers. But maybe they're just quite high emotional intelligence, and this is why they give a crap about people, and they give a crap about all the eating disorders that are being given to people by bad practitioners. And this is my message. We need to get to a point where instead of going, I no longer think weight loss is good and no one should ever try and intentionally lose weight, because you're just becoming a zealot, you should go, right, let's start a movement to inform dietitians, doctors, nutritionists, personal trainers about better methods. Let's initiate some research. Let's also just say to them, look, this is what weight stigma is. This is what the evidence is around weight loss. These are some key issues around, take the platform of intuitive eating. And I love the platform of intuitive eating, just not all of the people who promote it. Because intuitive eating, aside from the fact that this still needs lots more decent research around it, and I mean like decent where you can make actual conclusions, you can draw, for instance, it's not the strongest, it hasn't got the strongest evidence base around, use within eating disorders, for instance. But people with disordered eating, loads of the principles in it are fantastic. And long before I was aware or it became popular of intuitive eating, we had written M&U and it parallels greatly. The biggest issue is that lots of the intuitive eating crowd, I'll call them, are just totally anti-weight loss for anyone ever, as opposed to using intuitive eating as a tool within the grander scheme of personalized nutrition interventions. This unconditional permission to eat that I talk about, fantastic, but can be used within dieting. In strict intuitive eating, TM, I guess, fashion, it could never be used within dieting because you're not supposed to intentionally lose weight. But as a premise for weight loss, everyone needs to be able to get their head around this. And, this thing I talk about of your perception of restriction dictates its impact on many, many levels. So, yeah, ranty podcast, hopefully helpful, hopefully some interesting things, even just some listening to the radios, that's interesting gossip. And hopefully something that we can move forward from. And also maybe just clarifies my position a bit, because I get asked so often, what do you think about haze? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And it's difficult because it's an absolutely massive, massive area. That every statement would need breaking down. And, if people really want me to talk more on this, get onto my suggestions form on the website, martin-mcdonald.com/NANP, not another nutrition podcast. Click on the suggestion form and just type in, just write 10 questions, 5 questions, 3 questions. Type the thing, the topic is haze, the topic is intuitive eating, and write the questions you would ask me in a radio interview, and I will go through them systematically and answer them. I don't have time to plan these podcasts well. This is just a hobby for me. Remember that. So hopefully some of you are going to go away from this and go, do you know what? I need to be more informed. I help people lose weight, and I need to make sure I'm not leaving them in a worse state than when they came to me. Because weight loss at the end of your 8, 12, 20 week, whatever program isn't their lifetime. Where are they a year or two after seeing you? You know, people make these statements, if you lose weight, you will put the weight back on and more every single time. It's madness. I'll finish off with just a little bit of physiology. We have this situation where metabolic adaptation occurs. We lose weight and our metabolism slows down above and beyond that, just that would happen with us weighing less. Maybe I haven't got a pad. Do you know what was so super, super nice? Is one of my listeners, who was it? Catherine? Is it Catherine? Sent me a gift, and it was like a notepad for making notes during the podcast, and I haven't got it here. It's on my desk in my office. Catherine, thank you so much for sending me that. It's super, super kind. Metabolic adaptation. I need to just... Loads of you will probably know about that, but for those of you who don't, it'll be a good one. You can just signpost people to it. Hopefully I'll make it succinct. It's an easy little topic, hopefully, if I don't go off on too many tangents. So you lose weight and your metabolism goes down, but it goes down by more than just the amount that you would expect based on your weight, and that's the adaptation bit. Why did I start talking about that? Physiology. So that happens. Now, this is a big, big premise of what the anti-diet people focus on. Outside of like food issues and self-worth issues and that kind of stuff, feeling like a failure because you put weight back on, etc. Again, that stuff can be taught out of people's mentality. That's not a direct effect of dieting. That's an effect of society, of the practitioner that they're working with, of friendship groups. You can make people more robust around this area. But are any of you doing that? No, I've not seen any of you doing that great. My content on weight regain not being a failure is the best I've seen. And I don't often say that about my content. I don't think my content's great. I'm great. My content isn't great. It's sporadic. It's ill-planned. It's, Anyway. Anyway, I'll carry on. Weight regain, not a failure, etc. So, the physiology I just want to talk about real quick is when people lose weight, and again, it's one of the reasons that I'm sort of taken by this idea of rapid fat loss, is because you get this extreme situation of reduced hunger in so many people. You get this extreme situation of autophagy, that fancy word that you hear people using, massively upregulating with this big deficit. You get insulin being driven down, which all of the keto people talk about. Autophagy is what all the fasting people talk about. You get obviously weight loss. You get behavioral psychology benefits because you see progress so fast, and that's what people want to see and what is motivating to them. And aside from all of that, you will get these things of weight loss, increased insulin sensitivity, and potentially, maybe, a reduction in leptin resistance, an increased sensitivity to leptin, better regulation of appetite, your body hearing its healthy signals better. Now, there's some interesting research around probiotics in this area. Why would probiotics lead to weight loss? They don't change energy balance. Well, they might do if they somehow change the way your gut microbiota is interacting with the rest of your system, the gut-brain axis, changes appetite regulation, makes you subconsciously eat less and therefore it changes energy balance. People start to lose weight. And some of that might be through leptin signaling. We know that leptin, if someone is leptin deficient, leptin is this crazy powerful hormone. If you don't have leptin, you can never, ever, ever be satiated. So you see these children who, it's so distressing to see it. They just want to eat and eat and eat and eat, and they can never feel full up, and they're crying, feed me more. And I remember seeing this video when I was at university. One of my professors showed it, and I think this was around the time, this is about 2001, 2, and leptin was a relatively, we started to talk about leptin injections. So you inject this child with leptin and boom, just not hungry anymore, just loses loads of weight. Now, if you inject leptin into overweight individuals, it doesn't have the same effect. Why? Because their body's not hearing the signals. And so if we can improve our leptin sensitivity, and leptin seems to function downstream of insulin sensitivity as well. So it's all interlinked. I mean, all this stuff is obviously interlinked. But we might find the situation, let's not ram people into the ground, ram people into the floor, get their BMI from 40 to flipping 23. Let's get them down to something lower than 40 healthily, where the physiological drives don't just become so great that they just become, is this obsession, this preoccupation with food. I'm hungry all the time, no matter what. You're just going to fail. It's a recipe for failure. And if that starts to be you, rather than going to the point where you are binging, hating life, guilting yourself, etc. on this cycle, get to the level of acceptance. Maybe seek some counseling, some psychotherapy of sorts. Or find someone you trust. And maybe, the problem is if you go to intuitive eating styles, you may gain a lot of weight quickly, and that may just not be right for you. It may be okay for you, but maybe you can stay on this train of still being a little bit mathematical, quantitative with it, and reverse diet. Basically just add calories in and add them in and add them in and add them in and gain weight, but in a controlled fashion. Accept that you're going to gain some body fat until that hunger goes away, and then reassess the situation. I've had people do that before and then end up losing more weight. And this is why I'm so interested, because I think it's an area that needs some research if done well with good minds and good study design and good insights into what we really want to know. So if we can get to a position where we lose weight quickly, we get some of that better appetite regulation, and the body's not fighting us to regain weight. I recently lost 7% of my body weight in a very short space of time, all through body fat, pretty much. A very clinically meaningful amount of body fat for anyone of any weight. 7%. Not the absolute amount. But again, even 15 pounds lost in someone who weighs 300 pounds. It's probably meaningful. Especially because the outcome was I went back to ad libitum eating to pleasure, and maintain that weight loss. The problem is if someone tries to lose 30, 60, 80, 100 pounds, what's the difference? How did they lose it? What was the mentality around it, etc.? But yes, the physiology, the interesting thing the thing I'm interested in is, can we lose weight in a period of time and actually make the body function and signal appetite better, so that when we come to living, I talk to MNU students about this, coaching people to live. Oh, that's my tummy. It must be about 1 p.m. I've not eaten yet. Oops, skip breakfast, unhealthy. Lol. Coaching people to live. can we get to a point where we're actually setting them up for success instead of setting them up for failure through weight loss? Anyway, there you go. Sorry to everyone I've offended, friends that I've lost based on this podcast, but that's on you, not me. Science doesn't care about your feelings or your opinions. That's the great thing about science. I do care about your feelings, but I also don't care enough not to say the things that need to be said. That's me. That's how I've always been. That's why I don't have many friends. I don't actually do that in my friendship circles. It's only about nutrition. Oh, goodness. I'm not one of those. I said this the other day. I'm just one of those guys who just says it how it is. Cool. So you're a dick. No, just be nice to people. You don't just need to say how it is. But these things, not said directly at any one person, they do need to be said. They're scientific, they're factual, and they are things that people need to hear probably to make them better practitioners. And actually, hopefully, the ripple effect of this is a positive impact on the industry where people can be a bit more aligned in evidence-based practice, but also understanding some of the social impact, some of the social justice issues that are on the fringes of the physiology and practices that we are part of. This fat phobia, this fat-centric, this weight stigma that does go on, and it's bad. Cool. Hope you've enjoyed it. Leave a review. I mean, this was fantastic. Let's be honest. The content within this for someone who just woke up, rolled out of bed, did this. Say rolled out of bed. I was there for about 2 hours. It deserves a review, doesn't it? A minimum 4 stars. Right, much love. Until next time.